Military escalation used to be a slow, highly visible process. It took weeks to position ships, mobilize troops, and load bombers. Today, a conflict can escalate at the speed of machines, with hypersonic weapons crossing oceans in minutes and cyber attacks crippling infrastructure in seconds. Pop culture usually gets this wrong. Movies show military bases locking down with blaring red sirens when tensions rise, but that's actually the Force Protection Condition, or DEFCON, which is used for local terrorist threats. The real system is DEFCON, the Defense Readiness Condition. It is a highly classified, strategic framework used by the United States to translate global geopolitical tension directly into offensive, kinetic potential. Established by the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1959, DEFCON operates on a rigid, inverse scale from 5 to 1. Levels 5 and 4 are the baseline. They represent routine peacetime operations and standard intelligence gathering. The system is designed to look stable here, but the mechanical friction of this architecture only reveals itself when the countdown begins. Military planners built this framework to give human leaders a perfectly controllable ladder to war. Yet, looking at the historical record, a clear pattern emerges. As readiness increases, that human control begins to shatter. On September 11, 2001, the military transitioned to DEFCON 3, known by the exercise term Roundhouse. This was a response to a threat the system had never seen before, a novel asymmetric attack using domestic infrastructure. Mechanically, DEFCON 3 requires an immediate surge in force readiness above normal levels. Specifically, it mandates that the Air Force be ready to mobilize and deploy within exactly 15 minutes. Looking at this technical aerial image, you can see the immediate logistical consequence of that alert level. To clear the skies for military interceptors, the FAA executed a total, historically unprecedented grounding of all commercial aviation across the United States. While the skies emptied, the national command structure faced an asymmetric shock. The severity of the attacks forced the immediate evacuation of the president, severely testing mobile communication networks. Airborne in Air Force One, the technical friction became obvious. The president's situational awareness degraded rapidly as secure telephone lines routinely dropped, and television signals failed entirely over rural areas. The escalation on 9/11 revealed a critical blind spot. A maximum readiness protocol built to intercept Cold War Soviet bombers struggled to manage a decentralized terrorist network hijacking domestic airplanes. To understand the abyss of DEFCON 2, or fast pace, we have to wind the clock back to the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. This is the highest acknowledged readiness state in history, exactly one step short of thermonuclear war. At DEFCON 2, the military posture shifts radically. All armed forces are required to be ready to deploy in less than 6 hours, and the entire nuclear arsenal is fully alerted. The Strategic Air Command manifested this posture physically. They placed fleets of B-52 bombers on continuous airborne alert, rotating them in the sky 24 hours a day to guarantee they would survive a preemptive Soviet strike. Operating thousands of nuclear weapons at this extreme tension creates immense systemic friction. On October 27, known to historians as the most dangerous day, the margin for human error effectively vanished. This friction peaked with the Black Bear incident. In Minnesota, a guard fired at a shadow he thought was a Soviet saboteur. It was just a bear. But down the line at a base in Wisconsin, a localized wiring error bypassed the standard intruder alarm and instead triggered the exact klaxon indicating the United States was officially going to war. Believing the apocalypse had started, pilots scrambled to the runway and started the engines of interceptors armed with live nuclear weapons. They were entirely prepared to launch without presidential authorization, stopped only at the last second when a base officer drove a truck directly onto the tarmac to physically block their path. The chilling reality of 1962 is that the system didn't save us. The only thing that prevented DEFCON 2 from triggering a nuclear exchange was the sheer luck that human operators had the physical time to realize a mistake and abort the launch. DEFCON 1, codenamed Cocked Pistol, means nuclear war is imminent or has already begun. While we have never formally reached this level, the multi-domain battlespace of 2026 allows us to project exactly how it would unfold today. In this modern projection, the U.S. is already maintaining an elevated DEFCON 3 posture following the devastating kinetic strikes of a regional conflict like Operation Epic Fury, pictured here. Transitioning to DEFCON 1 today would not start with a radar warning of an incoming missile. It would begin with a silent, paralyzing cyber-physical blackout of the homeland. In the first phase of this escalation, adversarial malware would target domestic SCADA systems. SCADA, or Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, systems are the centralized networks that control industrial processes. Attacking them is a deliberate attempt to drop the U.S. power grid and sever telecommunications. To warn the civilian population, the government would activate the WEA, or Wireless Emergency Alert System. WEA is a cellular broadcasting technology that pushes urgent notifications to mobile devices. In a DEFCON 1 scenario, this system bypasses all user settings, pushing an inescapable imminent threat vibration to hundreds of millions of phones simultaneously. This blackout strategy forces the military to manage domestic civil chaos at the exact moment they are trying to project ultimate global power. When DEFCON 1 is declared, the military's absolute priority is the survival of the National Command Authority. This requires immediately abandoning vulnerable terrestrial bases and moving the leadership into the sky. They do this by mobilizing the NC3 architecture, the Nuclear Command, Control, and Communications Network. The President boards an airborne command post, like the E-4B Night Watch, to securely authorize the nuclear triad from above the fallout. But the 2026 landscape introduces a terrifying variable. The extreme radar-evading speed of modern hypersonic weapons drastically shrinks the window for human decision-making, from hours down to mere minutes. To process these incoming threats fast enough, the military is forced to integrate artificial intelligence directly into the early warning command network. This creates a fatal flaw. If an AI system, confused by sophisticated enemy electronic spoofing, hallucinates an incoming attack, it could independently trigger a retaliatory launch before a human operator has the time to verify the radar data. The DEFCON framework was designed in 1959 to give humanity perfect mechanical control over the apocalypse, but the sheer speed of modern warfare dictates a grim reality. The closer we get to DEFCON 1, the more we surrender our survival to the machines.